The derby is upon us, my friends. Lazio versus Roma, the first derby of this season. Last time, not so good that these two teams faced each other. Good morning, I'm Wayne Gerard. We are going to be breaking this match down, looking at three players to watch from the Bianco Celesti, three players to watch from the Giallorossi. It is a historic rivalry, almost 100 years in the making, starting in 1927, when the three teams of Rome came together. And it was Lazio, of course, who decided not to join with Benito Mussolini's team and create AS Roma. We go back that historically, yes. So there is a lot of depth to this match in particular. It is the northern bourgeoisie versus the southern type of working class within the neighborhood. That type of, how could you say, dynamic entering into this one. It's one of captains. It's where big performances have taken over from unlikely heroes, but then those who are most comfortable with handling the pressure on themselves. We know a couple of these recent results have not gone Roma's way, and I think immediately we'll jump into it and we'll just start to look at some of these facts and figures, look at the last, or I should say most recent games, and Wikipedia is our best friend for that. And as we scroll down, if we look towards the bottom right of your screen, you will see a lot of blue. And if we look at the 19th of March, that was 1-0 for Lazio. The previous one to that, November 6th, almost the same day to the date, that was also a 1-0 win for Lazio. And then we got to go back to March 20th of 2022 to see Roma win 3-0 over Lazio, but then blue again goes to red, blue, gray for a draw, blue. And it's only until 5 years ago at this point, the end of September 2018, do we see a nice string of Giallorossi results there, which actually lasts for about 5 years and tells you the strength of this team at that particular time. Think about Spalletti and Totti was still there, Salah, Kevin Strootman, De Rossi, who became captain, the Capitano Futuro. That took so long for that to come about. And even historically, we look into the late 80s here, string of draws, early 90s and mid 90s went Lazio's way. So we see these patterns, and I'm just hoping that this changes. And just before I came on air, I came across something really interesting, I thought. This was shared to me by my buddy Marco De Marinis on Twitter. And this is from Ilario Radio, which is kind of a respected news station. And this writer puts this out. It says, in Trigoria, there are special moments, let's say anxious waiting. The owners, father and son Friedkin, they didn't like the performance in Prague where Roma lost, but that this is so crucial for Roma going forward to qualify for the Champions League. And we know that because we've spoken many times before how qualifying for the Champions League impacts revenue streams. You get that media rights package. It's something like at least 50 million euros just for being in the group stages. And the writer continues here and says they don't want to see an Inter or a Prague. The Friedkins wonder whether or not to anticipate the turning point. Given that they will part ways with Mourinho at the end of the year, if the owners were to convince themselves that the team no longer follows their coach, we shouldn't be surprised by a sudden change on the bench. At the end of the cup match, Mourinho was not kind to his team, accusing them of not being professionals like him. These words alarmed the American ownership. Roma cannot afford an anonymous championship and failure to qualify for the next year's Champions League. This is why tomorrow's derby is a fundamental crossroads. An Inter or Slavia Praga-style defeat will not be accepted. If it happens, it could even happen that the coach, most loved by the fans, is forced to leave. In these 2 days in Trigoria, the tension is high. The coach's men close ranks. The captain wants to be there. Cristante and Mancini talk to the rest of the team to say that basically Mourinho has never accused anyone for lack of professionalism, but that he has an outburst of disappointment. And these are decisive moments, not only for the derby, but so much more is being played. Ends by Enrico Camiello there from radio.it. Once again, yeah, this could be decisive. Okay, what does Roma, let's say worst case scenario, what does Roma actually do post Mourinho? It's November 11th. Tomorrow will be November 12th. Is there anything realistic that Roma could transition to and employ a coach that's not Laurent Blanc? Who's out there that could possibly take over the reins at this point and be a transition? Because you can't go from playing this style of way into a completely new dynamic, new tactic. That's not realistic. And I think that the idea of being critical of Mourinho about the players' performances is not really good enough to me either. Like, Mourinho does not play the game. He's not a motivator either. He can he can get you together and make you concentrated and get you to focus on the game. But for him to like be this I'm going to backtrack a little bit. I don't want to say that Mourinho's not a motivator because he very much is. But I want to say that when the players step on the pitch, like, they have to do their job. That's not Mourinho's to go out there and kick the ball and score the goals and have the right mentality and get further up the pitch. That's the players. I tell you that from a player's perspective. Never. You cannot expect your coach to be the one who pushes you on the field, actually, like, whether he's barking orders or sitting there quietly. Okay, yeah, the manager who gets up and is theatrical and pushes you to that final limit and gets you over that curve, I understand that. But to come against the way that they played against Prague, no, bro, that's not the coach, not to me. You can respectfully disagree, and that's fine. But to me, I think Mourinho had a right to be like, yo, it's not professional. Because I've been around the block with managers who coach Roma and make excuses, and Paulo Fonseca, and after losing against unworthy opponents. It's like, oh, well, we tried our best. No, you didn't try your best. You didn't go out and do it. You didn't get the result, and it's simply not good enough. This isn't charity. This is a professional organization that's run like a business. Yes, like a business, as much as we don't want to admit that it's sport. And you have an objective, and your goal is to go out there and win. And if you're not going to win, you got to put a respectable performance in of attitude and play like you want to win this game. And that to me is something at my core, which has frustrated me for years. And that Mourinho actually says, no, this is not professional. This is not the way that you can play and approach matches. And to me, that is relieving. So to go out and think that Roma can get rid of Mourinho and get something better to change things right now is an alibi. Is an alibi for perhaps the entire quality of the squad, except for a few players. Rant over. Let me know what you think of that. Let's look at tomorrow's probable formations. I'm hoping that some people have written in some comments. Let me know what you think. If it's your first time here, maybe you're coming in from Twitter, maybe you're coming in from the hashtags, whatever. Remember to like. Always, please help this channel out, subscribe, and spread this on Reddit and other forums, Big Soccer. Tell your friends about it. Get them in here. Help this channel grow. So we look at these probable formations here. Let's start off with Bianco Celesti, Hysaj, Romagnoli. Yes, that Romagnoli, Patric, Lazzari. So Alessio Romagnoli has become a figurehead for this team since controversially joining some years ago. At this point, he had his tenure at Milan. It didn't work out so hot for him. Becomes a Lazio hero at this point, along with Luca Pellegrini, who is on the bench there. You can see towards your bottom left. Then we look at the midfield. Guendouzi, who is a player I liked when he played in the Premier League. Rovella, decent center defensive midfielder. And Luis Alberto, who is the playmaker. I think he's a lot of the brains behind this team. Felipe Anderson, he and Luis Alberto are about the same age, roughly 30, 31, 32, maybe Felipe Anderson at this point. Ciro Immobile and Pedro. So we've got a couple. The irony here is that there's at least 3, if not 4, Cancellieri, right? Cancellieri is still on this squad. Former players who were with Roma that are now playing for Lazio. Maybe Cancellieri left because I don't even see him on the bench here. I got a little distracted. We can also see Kamada on the bench there, a player who just seems so close to joining Roma this past summer on a free transfer. Lazio take advantage of that, whether or not it was true that Roma really wanted him or not. Up ahead for Roma, Rui Patricio in net. I should also mention that Provedel is an outstanding keeper. Lazio have arguably top 5 keepers in the league here. Last year, statistically, he was in the top 2 or 3. If you play Serie A fantasy, you know this guy came away with big points almost every single match. But over to Giallorossi, Rui Patricio, he's your guarantee. Mancini, Llorente, Ndicka. I know I'm reading this reverse. Yeah, Ndicka, Llorente, Mancini, left to right there. Mancini will wear the captain's armband. As we notice in the midfield, Lorenzo Pellegrini is still out. It's likely that he'll be on the bench. That's looking to be the most likely scenario at this point. Maybe some fringe minutes, but left to right as well. Zalewski gets the nod ahead of Spinazzola. I was wondering if maybe El Shaarawy could be that player who gets that here, but I think that Mourinho is going to keep El Shaarawy back as kind of his secret weapon. Aouar will play as the more advanced midfielder, whereas Cristante and Paredes will play as more of a double pivot, more next to each other, with Aouar a bit more progressive there. Although this is often written like a 3-5-2, this is more about the collapse. Offensively, Roma's structure looks a bit different. Karsdorp, who needs to start here on the right, and Dybala, Lukaku. Roma very lucky to have these two players back. I was nervous about them playing in Europe over the week, but it seems like they got away with it unscathed. If we look at the stop moving, Gazzetta dello Sport. If we look at the leaderboard right here, all these advertisements, we could see Inter way out in front now. Juventus are a good team without European play. They're well rested, but I don't think they have the juice to win Serie A this season. Milan 25, Napoli 21, Atalanta 19, Bologna 18, Roma 17. So in theory, Roma could at best jump up to the 5th spot this round if they do come away with a win, which would be just ahead of Atalanta. And if we look at some other score lines around Serie A right now too, we have Sassuolo tying Salernitana this morning, or that may have been yesterday actually, by the time I pulled this up. I'm going to expand this a little bit. We can take a look at the rest of the round. Milan's leading Lecce 2-0 at the break. Genoa has conquered Verona. Genoa, I think, is a decent little team. I like Retegui. I think he's a good striker. Juve versus Cagliari, Monza, Torino, Napoli, Empoli. Napoli short to win that, no? But Monza, Torino is an interesting match. Fiorentina, Bologna. Those two go way back in their history, speaking about past matches against one another. Udinese, Atalanta. So that's Udinese at home. Won't be the easiest of team, although I don't rate Udinese this season. I think they're poor. I think they don't have any firepower. I think Deulofeu is just depressed not having made that move to a bigger club. And then Inter Frosinone rounds off this group. So let's take a look at the comments real quick and see if anything's coming in. No, joke's on me. Okay, guys, throw them in there, please. I'm going to share this tab because I want to take a look at the 3 players to watch for the Bianco Celesti. And it's got to be the captain, Ciro Immobile, at first. Why? Okay, maybe this season hasn't been the biggest. He's already got 3 goals, though, 3 out of 12. So he's scoring at a 25% rate, not his usual 50% or more. But 4 goals between the Champions League and Serie A. If we look back at last season, 12 goals. The season before that, though, 27. And I think there's been a little bit of a cooling period. I know that he was injured for a little bit, but we can see the same amount of matches from 21-22, which is 31 matches played, 27 goals. The following season, that was cut more than in half. So we can see the decrease of Ciro. If we look back even before that, 20 goals that season, and then we go all the way back to 1920, 4 years ago, where he scored 36 goals in 37 matches played. Guys, he's got so many goals in him. You don't need me to tell you that. He's one of Serie A's most prolific strikers of all time. Whether we feel that he's a quality player or not, the goals, they speak for themselves. And this is not a player that Roma can ever take their eye on. I don't care if he's 40 years old at this point. I think that Ciro is a player who you never want to take your eye off. And that's going to be imperative for Mancini and Ndicka and Llorente to be super organized as he hangs off their shoulder and tries to press them a little bit, gets work in from Felipe Anderson. He can expect some decent deliveries. Pedro will be trying to get in between the lines. Luis Alberto, Kamada when he comes in. So Lazio have players to really make Roma suffer, in my opinion, regardless of the age. The derby almost always comes down to experience and a surprise player. That experience, why so? Why is it often a captain's match? Because, and I should say at times, that experience and that what it means to them has been a double-edged sword, because we can remember the guy on the back of my shirt, De Rossi, having made some serious mental errors in a derby, which resulted in red cards. We can think of Ibanez, who wasn't experienced and let the game get to him. 2 mistakes year after year. He's gone now, appropriately for those. Roma cashed in on that. But we speak about these guys like Luis Alberto and Felipe Anderson. They've been around the block. Ciro, they know what it takes. They know what it takes to get one big match. Are these going to be guys who consistently perform week in and week out, especially with European play? No, for sure not. But when it comes time to really rise and they're motivated, it's their experience which can often get players over the edge. Who does Roma have? that's like that. Lukaku, Dybala, you think of even Cristante, Mancini. These guys at this point are tested warriors. This is a team that's been to the Europa League final. They won the Conference League. You know that. But they also have that heritage building in them as well. Is there the pedigree like we've seen of teams past that, dynasty type teams like a Juventus that won it 10, 11 years in a row? No, but I do think that this Roma does have it in them to rise and take this win as the away team. Let's take a look at some other stats here, my friends. And we're going to go to Lega Serie A. Let's go to this quote by Mourinho, actually. This is the most controversial quote going into this one. There's going to be the presser later today, but he said, "The biggest game of a lifetime is always the next one for me. Since I started being a pro coach, that has always been the case. I think that if someone ought to feel offended about that comment, it is Slavia Prague and not me. It is as if he said Slavia have no quality," speaking about Saudi approaching this one. "I always respect my opponents. Perhaps this is a difference in a coach who has won 26 titles and another that has barely won anything." That kind of mentality. Every game must be taken seriously. There are no friendlies. I would love to hear the reaction of the Lega Serie A because that was an objective and direct criticism. So I wait. I love it. I love it. Of course, Roma went on to lose that match, unfortunately. So they didn't approach it like it was their biggest match of the lifetime ahead of them. But we move on. We've got some good statistics here. Okay, this is the tab I was looking for. Lazio won both meetings of the last two games, faced off 1-0 for both of those. They've won their previous two matches in all competitions by the same scoreline. Sarri's troops unbeaten in their last 6 at home, only lost once in front of their home supporters this season. Lazio have lost 2 of their previous 5 Serie A games, though, failing to score in both defeats to Milan and Bologna. So they are hurting for goals. I think a bit of that has also been Zaccagni, who is out and will not make this match either. Roma, though, losing 2 of their last 3, failing to score in both fixtures, which were away from home. But in Serie A, they've only lost 1 in their last 5, and they have definitely started to, as the writer says here, started to find some consistency. And I think they have. I think these Europa League matches are sometimes obstacles and distractions. And I think that Roma is going to end up being the better team here. I think they will rise. I'm not going to give a prediction. I never do. I want to hear your thoughts on a prediction. But if we look at the top assists here and goals, Lazio are far off. So Felipe Anderson, he's got 4 assists, which is tied for, I guess, tied for second most in the league. But way on the goal scoring charts, their highest goal scorer is Immobile and Alberto with 3 apiece. And that's it. If we were to take that for Roma, right, we have Lukaku, who has played 9 games and goals scored 6. So he's just, he's tied for second. And Cristante with 3 assists as well. Paredes with 3 assists and Dybala with 3 assists. So Roma's putting up the numbers. We see Belotti also there with 3 goals, Cristante with 2 goals. So it's been spread about. While it might be assumed and criticized by the media that Roma is one-dimensional with Lukaku, the truth is that the goals have been spread around, and this team actually can hit you from quite a few different angles. And that comes down to mentality. And that really is an effect of what I was mentioning before with, like, if things don't go Roma's way, is it really right to fire Mourinho? Is it right to go in a different direction? That's for ownership to decide. It's not for us. I don't think it's the move that I would make. Look, come season's end, Roma is going to transition away from Mourinho. He's probably going to go to Saudi Arabia for a ton of money. We know that. That seems like the reality. But that also means that Roma have a summer to go and find a manager that helps you transition. The mistake would be now to completely flip the script against a team that is so well organized, one that I think does play decent quality football. You may not like it. We may not like it. I don't like seeing them just bunker down and not play free flowing. But some of those counterattacks in the past have been quality. And I think that this team, I think they can do it. And I think that if Mourinho holds on for the rest of the season, and if Roma come away with at least a draw and hopefully a win, that I can't stop thinking about another Europa League final, guys. I'm going to take these comments and then we're going to sign off. We're just about over 20 minutes here. Francisco says, Wayne, I'm with you. Mourinho, a great motivator, but it's up to the players to take these words and motivate themselves on the pitch. Mourinho should stay till the end of the year because there is no option. Exactly, Francisco. Roma 8-1. I'm hoping, Sven, throughout history, we can remember these. I've said the word history probably 7 times this episode, but we can think of the moments. If you go look on my Twitter now, I just posted the goal from Roma's 5-1 victory over Lazio, the cucchiaio, the spoon shot that Totti made so famous, Montella's 4 goals. And the last thing that I want to look at here is those records. I'm going to take your screen one more time. We're going to run about 2 more minutes, guys. And there we go. Who are the highest scorers all time in this competition? You know, it's Francesco, Dino Da Costa from way back in time, Montella, and Del Vecchio. I didn't realize Del Vecchio had that many. 9 total goals in the derby. And Montella with 8. Then you got to go way down into the 5th spot for Silvio Piola with his 7 goals. Players, Totti has played the most derbies with 44 for Roma. The player with the most appearances for Lazio is Giuseppe Wilson. I wonder how he got an English last name. Interesting. Born in Northern England. Yeah, he must have an English father. Totti and Da Costa have scored the most goals in the derby, as we said, each scoring 11, both playing for Roma. And Montella, we go back to that 4 goals. He has the record for most in a single derby, and that's March 2022. Guys, stay with me. We'll be at Roma Club New York tomorrow. Sven's got one last shout out. Says, on a serious note, these derbies have their own life, but I actually think we got a good chance to win. And yes, there will be an unlikely hero, perhaps a Yanga Mbiwa, a Balzaretti. Who will it be this time? Who knows? Maybe Aouar. Wouldn't that be cool? Maybe El Shaarawy again, and he would definitely get cemented in the Roma history books at that point. Pray, guys. We'll see you tomorrow after the match, live from Roma Club New York.